All right. So today is one of the very rare opportunities where I have a PowerPoint. And it's all because the emphasis of what we're doing in this class today or this session today is really looking at the logos, taking time to really get clear about the animus, the inner masculine, because so much. So those of you who are in my world, my name is Nikki Ananda. You know me. You know my work is centralized around feminine embodiment and feminine business. But in order for either feminine embodiment to open, blossom, and thrive, or feminine business to bring success and fulfillment in all of the ways, that masculine piece has to be fucking solid, like pristine. So there's so much emphasis, especially today, where we are in time and space on Earth in the universe. We have been disconnected for millennia through the feminine, with the feminine. So for me, the work is 80% feminine energetics, feminine embodiment, and 20% is this masculine system structure, or ultimately, primordially, the word logos. So the foundation of everything I do, and we joke about this in my world, is I say feminine business and I say feminine embodiment, but these are like super muggle words to describe something so much bigger, so much bigger. But in reality, we're human beings having this human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And these spiritual higher level activations and teachings don't land unless they have a practical counterpart, until we can actually do something with it, make something with it. So, what I support the women in my world with creating is success and fulfillment in their lives and their embodiment and their business in all of these ways. And yes, the emphasis is on the energy because who we are being while we are doing matters most. But if we don't have the structures, the systems, the channels in place that are crystal clear, that are divine and pristine, the energy can't flow. And the most important channel, the primordial force behind all of this with the masculine, is our word. So I have so many words that I've written down in my notes. I have so many words on the slides that I'm going to drop us into. But ultimately, I really want to give you permission to just relax into the space. Allow you yourself to be in the feminine embodiment. Allow yourself to receive. Allow yourself to be in contemplation as these things land in the field. One of the big reasons that this came about is I've really witnessed a lot of people in this world of entrepreneurship, let's say, because there's something about entrepreneurship that's really sacred to me, because this is really, especially as women have never on the planet up until now been able to access the free market and capitalism in a way that gives us sovereignty and freedom that has never been touched before. It's never been touched like this before. So we are really at the precipice of a new era, a new paradigm. But new paradigms can't be created on energetics alone. So before I really got passionate about entrepreneurship, because even when I started my business, I did not call myself a business owner. Business was like a taboo word. I was holier than money. I was holier than business. I was holier than all of these things. So entrepreneurship, business, money, like that didn't even enter my field until all of a sudden I had to look at these things and take this more seriously. And the reason that I had this privilege, this gift to not really have to look at it for about 3 or 4 years is because my animus, my masculine, had been very well developed. So the skill set around business came very natural. It came intuitive to me until I hit a max level of growth and needed to up level. So when we are up leveling in our life and our business and our embodiment in all ways that we feel fulfilled, successful, and thriving, we can't just exalt the feminine and we can't just exalt the masculine. The whole dynamic needs to be brought to the next level. So often when I see people plateauing specifically in business, they'll be trying to solve a mechanical problem with an energetic solution, or an energetic problem with a mechanical solution. So it's really being able to have the discernment and the intimacy and the connection with self of understanding what is the medicine that I need right now for the next level, because both are going to be exalted. So energy is always going to come first. And another big piece of what we're recalibrating in this time and space and moment in life and history is we're coming back to being heart-led and heart-centered. So intuition is God speaking through us. So this is all about our connection of coming back to God and trusting God. But God doesn't want us to just sit and meditate, like lay up on our asses all day and watch Netflix, right? Like it doesn't, that's not it. Like we have to do the things, but what are we actually doing? What are we doing and where does it come from? We have been trained in a very predominantly masculine society. And I stay away from words like patriarchy only because the stigma that surrounds that word takes us away from the natural definition of what patriarchal is, where patriarchy just means ruled by law, where matriarchy means more ruled by culture and religion. So these are more of like take the stigma out. This is the pure sense of the word. So the word. What we're doing here when we come back into this work is we're looking at where does the word come from? Where is this word that I'm abiding by? Where is this law coming from? Is it coming from my ego or is it coming from my soul? Is it coming from society and external pressures or is it coming from God? So this is the very first step is understanding and recalibrating as we are journeying through to become heart-led, heart-centered, feminine business owners, feminine entrepreneurs. It's reconnecting, reestablishing that the frequency goes first. And through our intuition, through our heart field, we receive the action steps. I see it like a wave that comes over behind the back of the head, behind the heart, and out through the front of the heart, as opposed from the mind and grit and control. Let me take back the word grit. Grit is a good word. Control and hustle. This is what we're going to replace. We need grit, but we don't need hustle. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to say before we dive into these epic slides is I have built my entire business model and structure around these two things. So when you look at the EroSophia membership, we have 2 sessions a month. And the most important shift I made in my business was back in the fall when I decided that one of the sessions, instead of just being another mental masturbation Q&A place to just be in the head, was to really put the embodiment practice forefront. And this is the thing where it's like, we know that we need to do the things, but we resist doing the thing that's actually going to give us the breakthrough. So the breakthrough comes from changing our state of consciousness. And when we change our state of consciousness, a part of our ego has to actually die. So it's our ego that's going to be gripping on to control the state in which we're experiencing the world. When we come to whether it's a transpersonal breathwork session, a pleasure practice, whatever it is that changes our state of being, there will be resistance. But new paradigms cannot be born from the state of consciousness that you're operating in now. So with the pleasure practice in the center now of everything that Temple of EroSophia represents, there is the masculine counterpart every month of having that transmission, having that activation, getting the thoughts in alignment, because the thoughts need to be in alignment. We can't disregard what we're thinking about. We can't just surrender into the feminine like a leaf blowing in the wind. We have to command our mind, command our thoughts. And if you've been in my world for a bit, you know the foundation, like what this work is all about liberation beyond the false matrix. Mind, body, sex, and money. So that's what we're doing here when we union, when we yoke the masculine and feminine and come into these Hados Gamos mysteries. Now, the Exalt Mastermind, I will say, this is the place we get into the grit. Like this is where we really go in and get into the very detailed aspects of how to create, conduct, and sculpt our lives so our business thrives. And I wanted that, like, to have this place to really put forward the business mastery in a way that, yes, it's energetics led, but it's not irresponsible enough to not look at the skill, to not look at the way that we're allocating time. And as you're going to see as we get into this work today, time is our most valuable resource. So how we are invested in our time, who we are showing up in time, who we are being inside of time is what matters. Matter, mother, matrix creates the physical reality that we're dwelling within. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and I'm going to need, Marissa, since you're on camera, you to tell me if the slides switch because this has been a thing. Okay. We're going to present. I'm going to move to the side. Oh, Zoom has changed all its features. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So right now you see the Temple of EroSophia logo, correct? Okay. Now you see word is law?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, amazing. No, wait, how are we going to do this? All right, what I'm going to do is grab the chat. So I have notes, but I'm going to call them up on my phone so I don't disturb the screen here because I want to make sure, again, with this word as law theme, that I'm precise. Okay. All right. Mm. Okay, so those of you in my world hear me talk about self-actualization often. And with Jungian psychology, it's referred to as individuation. But this concept of actualizing self, coming into our highest, most realized potential, there's an equation to this. So it is our feminine embodiment, but it's our feminine embodiment in union with our animus. And really, the way I look at this is it is 80% feminine embodiment in the sense that who we are being in every moment, who we are being in time, all of this is what guides the animus. The animus is there to support the energy that comes through the embodiment. So with Jungian psychology, he really breaks down the feminine as eros. So the erotic pulse of life, the aliveness of life, where logos is the word, it's the command, it's the direction. And we'll see more in like Gnostic Christianity or other more mythical spaces or mythical spaces will say that it's Sophia. That's the feminine principle, the wisdom that comes and supports the word of God or the God or God birthed Sophia, which infuses every atom, every cell, every structure within this material world. So, on a higher level, this is what we're looking at. Anyone who's attracted to my field is attuned spiritually. Like, that's the thing. But we're here trying to figure out how to crack these codes on a matrix level. And understanding these mythos does so much good for our psyche, right? Because the subconscious part of us makes up 80% of our perception, 80% plus. It's way beyond. And only 20% or less is actually consciously perceiving what is alive in this moment now. So, for self actualization to really start to ignite, what we want to start to take command of is how we are impressing on top of our subconscious. And impressions are caused the way that our subconscious works. The subconscious is feminine, right? So, even again in Jungian psychology, if you guys can notice, Carl Jung's my spirit guide. The masculine is the conscious aspect of self, it's light, where the feminine is shadow, and the feminine exists within the body. It's a felt experience. So feelings are feminine, but we are in more command of our feelings than we actually realize. And what we want to do here is take responsibility for what we are feeling. And our thoughts make us feel certain things, or our feelings make us think certain things. So having this union, thought, word, feeling, Sophia, feminine, body, we have much more control over shaping our reality than we realize. So this is really what we want to start to take responsibility for is how am I thinking? How am I feeling? And what is the reality that I actually want to create? All right. What do we use our word for? This I want to have you guys go off in the chat. Like what is our word for? What is the purpose? What is the intention? What do we use our word for? Perfect timing. Why do we use our word? What is the purpose? And I think what's really interesting to remember when we look at the original creation myths, right? It's like in the beginning there was the word, and the word was with God, and really taking that in. So it's not English. God wasn't speaking English. So what was the word? What was the word? All right. Commitment, honoring, vowing, oaths, transmission, to express feelings, thoughts, etc. Relaying what I want to convey to other. I try to speak with frequency behind me. Yes, vibration, frequency. Hard to actually convey usually. We use our words to create. That's it. Creation. Our word is used to create. So all of this physical reality, and we're gonna ground this in, like I promise, it's gonna get practical. It's gonna land in the body in a really powerful, tangible way. But to understand that this is where it all comes from. Before there was this three-dimensional reality that we experience, which is the densest aspect of our human experience, our spiritual experiences here in this 3D world, the slowest moving, the densest aspect of reality. In order to get to this phase of life, energy has to penetrate through the spiritual realm, the mental realm, the emotional realm, the energetic realm, until it becomes part of the physical realm. And the physical realm is constructed because of sound and light. And sound is the word. Sound, vibration, power, frequency. On a practical level, this conversation came to be because I started to witness a lot of patterns inside feminine business levels, or feminine businesses, sorry, between clients and mentors and clients and their results. And there were very specific, almost like keys that I could see being dropped, or sand being released through the fingers of people trying to grasp onto these concepts, where I started to really break down in the most simplistic way, like, what is actually happening here? Because what I care about for myself is that I get the best results when I'm working with a mentor. And I care for my clients that they get the strongest results when they're in my field. So really breaking this down as a science, like, what is it that creates success in these spaces? And what is it that has people leak their power? So if we understand that creation comes from masculine, feminine, so it's the energy, the feeling, and the word, the command, the container, then what is it that some people have wild success and other people seem to be having incremental progress or running in place? Like, what creates that difference? And ultimately, what I saw and what we see, I mean, even Napoleon Hill, who's one of the masters of studying success in all of the ways, really breaks down that it comes down to our relationship with our word. It's our relationship with this animus part of us as women. So what I see, another part of this that I want to bring forward. So what I'm doing with this masterclass, that's really what I'm doing with this masterclass that's really important is this is becoming part of my onboarding system. So like I said, I care about my clients getting incredible results, extraordinary results. So I wanted to create a conversation that I see lacking in mentorship spaces that I know is most supportive for people coming into alignment and integrity and empowerment with what they're doing. So as this is a part of my onboarding process, so people that are watching this, you're either live on the call right now, or you're catching the replay in the Facebook group, or you're new in Exalt, or you're new on one-on-one, and you're watching this replay as you onboard and sign your contract and come into agreement of this space. So through my own journey of being in contracts with mentors, watching people break contracts with mentors, having people break contracts with me, and really starting to look at the way people operate, I started to ask myself, when I saw certain patterns, why is it that some people will behave this way or act this way, and it's not in me to behave or act like this? Like, why would I never break a contract? Like, why? What is that? What is that in me? So this really had me start to lift the veils of understanding not just the importance of my word, but also the difference between the way men and women navigate commitments. And where we're at this place in time where feminine business is this new wave of freedom that we're able to capitalize on in the best use of that word. Our responsibility is to have the tough conversations like these that allow us to take our responsibility, our power, our presence, and our capacity to hold pressure to the next level. So I immersed myself in conversations like this. And it started after I had a pretty significant wobble with a mentor. And we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the extreme of sticking to your word to a fault. Because it's where is the word coming from that's most important. Is the word coming from ego or control, or is it coming from soul-led guidance? So these conversations, the way that I've navigated certain things, there's things that I wish I did differently as a client. There's things I wish I did differently as a mentor. And there's definitely things I've seen, especially in the coaching industry, that I hardcore, I'm like, this is not acceptable. And we as women need to have integrity behind our word. There are things that we do that men would never, ever, ever do because of the honor that comes with their word. So honor is a very masculine attribute. So when we think of our word, we want to think honor. When we think of our energy, we want to think reverence, feminine. But we want to have honor behind our word. One of the things early on, before I even became a mentor, and I was just on my healing journey, when I saw certain results that I would have through ceremony or personal development work, and people that were in the same containers as me were not having the same results, I was like, what is this? Like, why is this happening? And all of it had to do with my commitment to my word, to integration, and keeping my promise, right? So let's take plant medicine ceremonies. So I want to be clear that I actually don't advocate for plant medicine work, except for like Rose Dietas, right? But psychedelic work, I don't advocate for that at this time and place. But for many years of my life, psychedelic work was foundational. It got me through so many layers of trauma. It was exponentially valuable for my healing process. So I would go into these ceremonies. I would invest my time, energy, money. I would be all in at a level that maybe a lot of other people would be in. But I would always have a 6-month committed devotional integration container. Now, lots of people would talk at the end of the ceremonies about how they're going to integrate and what they're going to do, but very few people actually did anything. So I would come back to these circles to go on my next round of deepening, being an entirely different human, when I would see people that were in the same group as me have very incremental progress. And again, no judgment. There's no judgment. And some of it's not even about timing. It's about the capacity to hold the heat and the pressure when we're in these environments, and what is motivating our why. For me in these containers, my why was so powerful. It was so potent. The why was bigger than life. It was, at that time, it was to get my life back. I was really in a traumatized, collapsed place. I had no choice. I had to go in on my healing. And the same thing happened with me in business. All of a sudden, I had no choice. I had to go all in on my business. It couldn't be just this cute little like fluke that was working and making money for me. I had to really study business energetics and business skill set development and develop my animus instead of intuitively leading my animus through business, right? So there comes a point in time where we have to look at the patterns. What's happening in our life? Why do we not have the results that we want? What is the thing that we need to step up and step into? Because it's not just the feminine and it's not just the masculine. It's both in union, but something is being called right now. And like I said earlier, we can't fix an energetic problem with mechanics, and we can't fix a mechanical problem with energetics. It's really looking at the ways that these things come together, that they come in union with themselves or in union with each other to support the greater evolution. Okay. So you guys know I love all things occult and esoteria. So before, like, remember there was a time where we didn't even have written language, right? Like there was a time where we spoke tonally. There wasn't even actual literal words, like symbolic words. There were feelings that were expressed through sound. And there's a purity in that we have come very far away from in this time and space. I believe there are very intentional and deep reasons that we have forgotten the power of our word, because we are not everyone that speaks the English language or any romantic language doesn't understand the power of word. There are lots of people, mostly in high levels of positions of power, that do understand the power of their word. So whether we want to accept it or not, this world is run on magic. And some people understand this and work with it. And other people have fallen into a very materialistic life, like stuck in the matter, stuck in the science. But when we start to understand that words themselves are used to cast spells, and spells are energetic signatures, intentional energetic commands used to shape and create reality. So coming back to what is our word for? It's for creation. It's to create. So imagine now taking seriously that every word you speak is a spell that you're casting out into space. Like really imagine that. Start to think of all of the ways that you, and not just out loud, but in your mind, because we speak English or whatever language in our brain and our dreams. Like we're constantly, the chatter is going, 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 going. But think about all the self-talk you have. Like what are the spells that you're casting when you look in the mirror? What are the spells you're casting when you're journaling? This is really important. Like what are the words that you're putting out? And sarcasm is a very interesting thing as well, and comedy and humor and all of these ways that even if we're being funny about something, the words that we say have impact. Everything that we put out has impact. So what I really want as we deepen into each slide and each moment here is to start to really commit to yourself that you're going to be mindful of how you are using your word on a level that you haven't taken into consideration up until this moment. If our word is being used to cast spells, what is the spell that I want to cast? One of the things I'll talk about a lot is that affirmations, especially in the mainstream manifestation conversations, are ineffective. And mostly because what people are doing with their word is they're just saying things. They're saying things without the energetic signature, the feeling that's behind it. Now, here's something really interesting. Whether or not we are conscious of it, the words we speak have an energetic entanglement. Etymology matters. So there's ways that what we speak, our personal relationship with the word, we can create almost like a new definition, a new signature on what we're saying. This is true, but we have to really be in our power to do that. But most of the time, what we're speaking is something that was created as a spell at some place in time. And we are working with these spells in ways that we may not exactly be conscious of. So when it comes to affirmations and using words, it's not enough to just say a word. We have to actually be embodied in the feeling. What does this affirmation make me feel like? And if the affirmation is the word, is the masculine, but our body template, our feminine embodiment is not actually primed, open, or receptive to the word, the affirmation is throwing literal dry spaghetti at a wall. Dry spaghetti at a wall. There will be no sticking. It'll be something to witness moving through the air for a split second, but nothing will actually change. As you start to develop a relationship with your word and start to become very mindful, very conscious of what you are speaking and how you are speaking of, how you are speaking it, how you feel when you say it. And this takes slowing down so much. You turn inside out, which is the whole game of feminine embodiment, is to slow down so much you turn inside out. It's from this space of being so deeply attuned. Your womb is your center of gravity. Your heart is the field that connects you with life. Your mind is no longer the authority, but logic, reason, and word are here to support the creation that you desire, and the desire is felt through the heart. So when we slow down so much that we're deeply in tune with our central core, central channel, our womb, our cervix, our heart, our throat, our third eye, open at the crown, we're able to start to create from a much more precise place. But it's not enough to just be in the energy of our desire. We need that masculine, we need that animus, we need that word to start to sculpt and guide what it is that we're actually creating. So when I really started to go deep into this work and build strong integrity with my word, well, I'll say this, something very bizarre happened to me in my early 20s. Up until this point, I was a compulsive liar, and I had to lie in order to protect myself. From a young age, I was like sneaking out of my parents' house. I did anything I could to feel alive, that my soul was actually guiding me to. I don't consider myself a rebel. I wasn't rebelling. I was following my aliveness for life. And with that, in order to protect my freedom, I had to lie to my parents and like my friends and things like that about my life. Like I had to lie about who I was verbally. And something shifted. I had a specific awakening that happened that shifted where I no longer could energetically lie to a fault, like really to a tactless fault. Tactless fault. But this started to shift my entire relationship with the present moment. And I want to bring that forward. So look at the ways that you're using your word to either now there's a difference between hyperbole, right? Because we're also poets, and hyperbole and poetry, like the creative expression aspect, but poetry is still casting spells. When we look at music, and this is really important, I just did a live about this the other day. Music creates feeling in the body, right? So we have instruments, we have sound, whether it's drums, guitar, piano, or electronic synthesizers, whatever it is, the frequencies of the music, the instrumental music itself evokes a feeling within us, and some will connect more than others. But then you take words, English words, and actually, because of the collective unconscious field, it doesn't even have to be English for us to actually pick up on it, which is pretty wild. But the English, when we put words or lyrics on top of a frequency, a sound that's already moving us, already touching us, already making us feel something, those words that are floating on top of that sound are going to impress upon our subconscious. And whether we like it or not, these themes are going to start to play out in our life. So I can go down a little conspiratorial rabbit hole here. I think one of the greatest wars that we have on the collective is breaking the Haros Gamos, breaking the masculine feminine union. So what's the best way to do that is pump our mainstream.
No, thanks.
Oh, wait, who's muted? Oh, here we go. Pump our mainstream with songs about heartbreak, songs about devastation. And this is a way, or objectifying women, or overly functioning around materialism and getting lost on actual love, right? So these are things that when we're going through heartbreak, it's medicine. But when we have the space and we're conscious on what it is that we're actually creating, it's being mindful, are these lyrics serving what I want to actually impress upon my subconscious? So there's a greater responsibility in our consumption, Okay. Yeah, so after I started to clear this, but even more so recently, when I started to become a lot more conscious of my animus development, especially in terms of business, what I noticed was affirmations actually worked like magic. And it's not that I would just say these things, it's that the practice would be to say the thing, to speak the spell, and then to allow it to resonate in my field. When the beat slaps, but the lyrics are problematic. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so saying an affirmation, there's one of the affirmations I'm working with that I love, especially like dating right now, is I'm chosen without chasing. And this was a very hard concept to wrap my subconscious around. As most of you guys know, but if you don't know my story, I was adopted as an infant. I was conceived from terrible environments. And the whole imprint that I've had around men and the masculine from a young age was not healthy, we'll say that. So this energy of urgency and chasing has been in my field when it comes to romantic relating with men. So working with this energy and reversing it, I am chosen without chasing. If I had tried to work with this 10 years ago, it'd be words in and out. Yeah, that's a great idea, blah, blah, blah. But when you understand it as the power of affirmation and looking at that felt sense, what does it feel like to be calibrated in time and space, using my word to command, I am chosen without chasing, and letting that spell, that energetic signature, ground into the cells, ground into the atoms. And from that moment, because if we're doing the feminine embodiment work and our channels are open and our energy is clear, we get to anchor that in and start to walk forward in that identity. We get to sculpt our identity through the word. Now, what happens when we start taking on affirmations and we start practicing like this? The affirmations are more mystical than they are practical. But where the power is going to start to land is when we can start to observe that by having these spells wrapped around our field, by having these words cast as we're shifting our identity, the universe and all of the souls within it start to respond to us differently. Because everything in this universe, everything in this three-dimensional world is a reflection of what's happening internally. As above, so below, as within, so without. So as we do this inner work to change, who am I being? What do I feel? What do I believe about myself in relationship to life around it? When our core is clear and our word is potent and precise, things will shift instantly. And then it's up to us to collect the evidence and integrate the shift that's happening. So our word is used for spelling. I have a really fun story. Okay. So I think this story happened just so I could share it here because this was just a couple days ago. So right now, in the EroSophia membership, we are preparing for the most exquisite, incredible, intensive journey into a rose dieta. And with this, there's so much preparation. And this is really one of my favorite things that I get to give myself into. There's seasons in my business. There's seasons to focus on the masculine, like December and January, like really up leveling the systems, the structures, like what's getting put in place. And then we have the surrender, and this is all in the Exalt Mastermind, right? We have the surrender through February, March, April, May, and then in June, it's starting to get that the gears going for the next launch of Exalt because it launches every 6 months. So March itself is like the epitome of the feminine embodiment energy. So what we're doing, and everyone in Exalt has access to the membership, what we're doing in the EroSophia membership is going in a 5-day journey immersed in the rose frequency. The structure is the dieta itself. There's strict guidelines. There's a strict container for this work. So when the container is set solid, when that masculine is really solid, we have the capacity to just surrender into the feminine currents. And there's nothing that makes life worth living more than these moments when we get to surrender into the deep feminine currents. Like this is the euphoria, this is the bliss, this is the ananda, this is the exaltation. But the masculine, those structures, those systems, the discipline has to be there in order for us to surrender. So I'm really drawn to this color lately. It's like blood red, womb red. And there's like, I went on a date recently and this man bought me these flowers that were the same exact color of my nails. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Usually I do white roses, but he got me red roses, but not just red, like deep blood red roses. And my nails are already this color. This was a couple days ago. And I'm like, this color is really coming towards me. I would love to be in this color throughout the whole dieta. And there was this set of clothing that I wanted to get. And my rent just increased $1,000 a month. And my expenses are a little bit higher. And when I looked at my bank accounts, and I was like, is this actually where money wants to move through? It's not logical, it's energetic. I move money energetically. It's not in the mind. I feel it, and then the logic supports the motion of it, right? Do you guys get the theme here? When I felt into it, it was like, like this is not where my money wants to go right now. So I was like, all right, I want to play with this. This was 2 days ago. I just want to play with this. I want to play with, I'm doing this class on word is law. I just want to play with my written word. So I go into my journal and I write about how much I desire these clothing or this clothing set, like 3 sets. And I would love to be in this color throughout the whole rose dieta because I usually wear just black, white, and beige and pink. How it would make me feel. I'm not attached. I don't need it, but like, oh my God, like, oh my God. Like I really desire it. And, if it's meant to be, the money's not like, the money in my account right now, that's not where it's meant to go. So if it's meant to be, it's up to you, God. 3 hours later, my neighbor who has not paid, we share internet, has not paid me for the internet since November, Venmoed me a bulk, hundreds of dollars at once. just a few hours later, of what he owed. And it was unexpected, unpredictable. Like, yes, he owed me the money, but of all days, November, December, January, February, 4 months later, and 2 hours after I write it, that money comes in, right? So there's beauty in this. There's beauty in when we understand the potency of our word, and we're not manipulating the universe. We're not manipulating God to give us what we want. We're expressing our desires from a clean place of non-attachment. We're expressing the passion and the energy, and we see the way that these material things can support the vision of what we're bringing forward, not because we need it, but because we want it. Not because we need it, but because we want it. Creating an opening for flow. Yes, yes, yes. So I love that. I love that as an anecdote as we go into this work, because if my commitment to my word was not solid, it wouldn't have worked. I want that to be clear. Like, there is a refinement process to this. There's a refinement journey, and we have to develop this skill set. We have to develop our masculine. We have to develop our animus in a way that's truly, truly healthy. So for our feminine to thrive, our masculine needs to be aligned and in balance. So this is what imbalanced masculine looks like. Overdoing, overworking, overcommitting. Okay, Jacqueline? This is an imbalanced masculine. Just because the masculine is masking doesn't mean it's actually in alignment. So again, we're coming back to what I spoke to at the beginning of our call, and we're going to layer this in a little bit too. The deepening of this, of understanding that where is the word coming from? Where is the masculine coming from? Where are we sourcing logos? Because if it's true logos, if it's the word of God, it doesn't come from the mind. It can't come from the mind because the mind is limited to our human experience up until this point now. That's what our mind is. Our mind is not dialed into the infinite creative potential of God in the universe. Our soul is. And when we lead from our soul, when we lead from our heart center, knowing that our womb, which is our creative center as women, is the center of gravity in our body, we're grounding into our womb, our creative center. We're coming into the heart, which is what connects us to all life around us. And by connecting to life, Eros and Sophia, by bringing our heart frequency out into the world, we can feel where we want to harmonically calibrate. Where is the harmony of our embodiment in this place and time? And what are the actions? What is the movement that deepens us into the frequency of our becoming? Because just sitting, floating in space in a frequency is not integrating and embodying the frequency of your becoming. It's just luck. It's just luck at this point. I check all those. Yes. So this is one side of it. And this is, I would say, so both of these, I want to say, these are all trauma responses, and we're all fucking traumatized. Like, let's get real for a second. So there's ways that we respond to our nervous system being dysregulated because of money, because of business, because of all of the things. Oh, let's see this. Harmony literally derives from being in tune with the moon, womb wisdom so much. Thank you for that etymology. Yes, obsessed. Okay. So good. So all of these, the examples of what imbalanced masculine looks like. So we have the overt, the overcompensating. And we do that because we don't actually trust the feminine. That's what's happening when we're going too much in the masculine, is because we don't trust in our receptivity. It's because we don't trust in our magnetism and our pull. So we need to make sure we're controlling and manipulating in the outer world. Now, the other side of this is rebelling from all systems and structures, resisting any kind of boundary or container whatsoever, feeling not enough or too much, feeling unclear of direction, the lack of trust and conviction. So this is more so of having a distrust in the masculine. Having the distrust in the masculine is going to have us tuck and hide in feminine energetics, tuck and hide in feminine embodiment, creating chaos in all of the ways, but not creating with command, not creating with the power of precision in our word. So this makes a difference. What we want to do is find that order, find that harmonized, supportive masculine where we are prioritizing our energy. We are prioritizing who we are being. But we know that in order to become more of who we are here to be, in order to self-actualize, the ideas, the downloads, the inspirations of what to do have to come from being in this energy first. And this can be maddening. And I want to be clear that it's not about over-regulating. This is really important. It's about not being stressed, but being able to hold intense amounts of pressure and make moves. Because it's that pressure in our system that creates the diamond, that creates the outcome. So if we're not putting ourselves in containers, if we're not putting ourselves within boundaries, if that masculine structure and system and channel isn't there, then we're not going to have command over what it is that we're creating in this life. And our word is the ultimate structure in space and time. Our word is what sculpts reality. And if you don't trust your word, if you don't trust your relationship with your word, if you don't trust you're going to do what you say, or you fear that what you said you were going to do is going to feel abusive to yourself, then it's out of alignment. And this is what gets to be cleaned up. But we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay. Word as law. Let's just see here. Okay. So our word is the structure for which matter builds around. Matter, matrix, mother, etymology, right? So the feminine is everything that we're experiencing in this life. The divine masculine principle is I am. It's that frequency. I am. It's totality. It's union. It's oneness. But to really be expressing in the feminine is to know I relate. I am in relationship to. I am in relationship to this earth. I am in relationship to the people that surround me. I am in relationship with my word. I am in relationship with my embodiment. I am in relationship with my food. I'm in relationship with sex. All of these things are relational. This is what it is to be feminine. It's to be in matter. It's to be in the matrix. It's to be mother. So the power behind our word, we build power behind our word, through developing esteem, integrity, and emotional intelligence. Okay. I want to see if it's on the next slide or if I'm going into this here. Please hold. Okay. I want to emphasize again and again and again and again that this work, the work that we're doing, the paradigm that we're creating as women coming together on this journey is that it is intuition led. It's body-based, eros led, body-based, energetics led. But it's not just energetics. The energy starts to give us the inspiration. It's what fills. We have an orb, right? We have a sphere. The energy is what fills it. It's so much more than the actual container itself. But without the container, which is logic and reason and this masculine principle, without that all that energy that's within that orb is gone. It disperses. So the focus is always going to be being intuitive, but we have to enforce the structures, the commitments, the things that we get told will support the vision, or else it's not going to be brought into life. So to shift our identity or create a new paradigm, we have to take the aligned action. Our action, which is our word, becomes exponentially more effective when it is intuitively guided, written, committed to, and followed through. Once we build trust, once we build trust and momentum with our word in present time, we can actually begin to use our word to collapse time. So this really does get mystical and magical, and there's a process to this. So what I want to say and what I want to open you up to, so like I said, this is the igniter, this is the activator to start really looking at how you use your word. and to give yourself permission to take on a whole different level of responsibility with your commitments, with your actions, with what you say you're going to do, what you say about yourself, all of these different things. What will start to happen is now your word is going to start to sculpt reality quicker than you even could imagine. So these affirmations, like the example that I was giving, you will now have instantaneous responses to the words that you're speaking to. But what's even greater is, like I gave in the example of my journal, as we start to collapse time around what we're creating, because our word has so much more power and conviction behind it. But in order to build that relationship, we have to build esteem. We have to build integrity. We have to, so integrity is when our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, and our actions are aligned to each other, right? Like that's it. The alignment is integrity. But our esteem is how we feel about ourselves. Our esteem is our relationship to self on a feeling body. And the way that we build our esteem is by committing to actions and following through with our actions. So when I say here, our action, our word becomes exponentially more effective when it's intuitively guided, written, committed to, and followed through. It's the follow through. And it's not just follow through for the sake of following through. It's who are you being while you follow through. So if we have an impression of masculine, that discipline is going to feel punishing, right? So what happens when the impression of our subconscious, of our psyche, of our animus says that the masculine is a punishing force, the masculine is unsafe, the masculine is aggressive? That is how our own inner masculine treats our feminine. So we will be overcommitted. We will do more. We will overwork. We will hustle. We will burn out. We will do all of these things. That is an abusive act of masculine energy. So to start to rewire this, it's not about just doing the thing or else I'm going to get punished. It's doing the thing because it feels good to do the thing. It's doing the thing because the intention of doing the thing is to build esteem. The intention of doing the thing is to build the vision. The intention of doing the thing is because I know in the long term that by following through with this action, it takes me on my highest timeline. And that feeling that I get has my feminine flourishing. But when we're doing things because we think we should, we're shaming ourselves, guilting ourselves, fearing ourselves, or punishing us into action, our feminine's not going to thrive. So we need to make sure that how we are being while we are doing is the priority. And one of the things I look at, so this example I always give, but it was one of the most important codes that I ever got in the beginning of my business. So when I started my business, when I left corporate and went all in on my business, I was in like 3 different classes, one of them being a coaching certification. I was literally building my business, building the structure of my business. My roommate was actually building my website, but I designed it from scratch. There were no templates. Like he coded my website based on my eye and my design. So I was designing my website, designing my offers. I was working with a man who had autism. I was nannying a newborn. I had so many things. My schedule was so full. And for the first time in my adult life, there were so many things on my task list that I actually couldn't get them all done in not just a day, but a week. For the first time in my adult life, there were things that I needed to get done that had deadlines that when I looked at the list, I realized there's no way all of this can get done. So what I did in that moment, what I chose to do in that moment, and it's so profound. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck, what got in me to do this? Well, I do know actually. At this point in time, my life's work was solely on feminine embodiment and pleasure. Solely. So my masculine was autopiloting from a healthy place. I did have a very healthy masculine, gifted, just not developed to the higher level that I needed to scale a business, but naturally I had a healthy masculine. So when I looked at this list and I had a choice of how am I going to handle the fact that I'm not going to get through with all my commitments, what am I going to do? And what I decided to do is choose the task based on what it felt like. I decided to go through what is going to feel best to do. And not best as in comfortable. Let me be very fucking clear about this, because I would write down tasks for the day and there would be something on that list some days where I wouldn't even notice what was happening. But when I'd look at my task list, I'd be like, oh my God, this is so heavy. This is so heavy. This is so heavy. Why is this so heavy? Oh my God, I can't do all of this. And notice that weight, that density was only related to one item on that list. And by tackling that one item, all of a sudden, the whole list elevated and became lighter. So that's how I started to navigate my task list. Is there something on this list that's creating a lot of weight? If so, that's the thing that gets done first, because that's going to feel best. Because we're looking at the long term. We're looking at a long game. This wasn't about pleasure on a superficial level. This was about pleasure as I build legacy. So when we start to get into this place of alignment with our word, and we're going to get into this in a couple of slides, there's a difference between abandoning responsibility to go too far in the feminine versus to exalt the feminine to keep your word, right? We can use the feminine energy as an excuse to not do the thing, or we can use the feminine to exalt our masculine. And we're going to get into this. The main point that I want to get through this piece here is that our integrity and our esteem matched with our emotional intelligence, which is our feminine, is the key, is the formula to developing more power behind our word. I don't need to get into this too much because we've talked about this a bit. But the difference between ego and animus, we're going to feel it in the body. And one of the things inside of the priestess membership or the EroSophia membership is one of the very first sessions I did, it might have been the very, 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 very first session I did, was called Embodied Energetics. And in that embodied energetics session, what I really wanted to do was give an experiential immersion into feeling the energetics in the body, really tapping into what is push, what is pull, what is expansion, what is contraction, so that if we are going to be energetics led in our creative process, we know what we're feeling for. We consciously immerse. You know, it's the same thing. We can't just want our body to be fit and not go to the gym, right? It's like we can't just imagine having a fit body and then one day we wake up and have a fit body. We have to go to the gym. The same is true about energetics. We can't just like decide we want an energetics-led business and not do the training work to develop our energetics. Energetics are a skill set. Energetics are a strategy. Energetics are a form of strategy in business. It's not to replace strategy. It's something to be cultivated and developed. And when we're doing the energetic development work, what we come to realize through energetics is that there are certain skills, especially in business. Okay, I need marketing skills, sales skills, networking skills. There's practical skills that our energy will show us that we get to develop. But what ends up happening is if it's our ego, not our animus, showing us, our mind is going to say, I need this, 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 versus our subconscious feeling, oh, this is what I get to develop next. One is a pull. One is attraction-based. One is centered. One is empowering, where the other one is going to feed cycles of not enoughness and chasing in all of the ways. So we can be very sure of, is this action coming from ego or animus by how we feel about the action? Okay. Just check my notes here for a second. How's this landing for everyone? Let's do a check-in. Amazing. Okay. Okay. I want to give another story because I think stories are always so beneficial to help land in and like get really practical about how and why and like all the things. In 2023, I committed to doing 365 days of Facebook Lives. And yeah, I love this. And on that journey, I showed up every single day, no matter how I was feeling, no matter what I looked like, no matter if I had something to say or not. I was actually sick. I was chronically sick for 8 months that year. I developed asthma that year. It's actually, now that I say that out loud, I'm like, oh, this actually makes sense. I was working through some serious, serious witch wound stuff. And it was wildly uncomfortable, but I never missed a day. And on a practical level, I didn't miss a day because I had a reminder go off on my phone every single day. And I had to clear that reminder every single day. And like all of us, I have my phone on me every single day. So there was no excuse. I always knew I didn't miss one single day for a full year. Not every live was obviously poetic or valuable in the sense that like contributing verbal value. Some of them, there were a few where I just didn't even speak and it was just like showing up and saying, this is what it looks like to show up when you don't want to, right? And there is value in that. What was really profound about this journey, this was 2023, and I had gone all in on my business after my business randomly sunk under, and that's its own story for a different program, which a lot of you do know. At this point, I think the year before I had made like $20,000 or something like that. I think I might have been negative 40,000, my net. And this year that I committed to my word of doing 365 days of Facebook Lives, I had my first six-figure year. And it's not the lives that did that. It's because I said I was going to do something and I did the thing. It's that my integrity got stronger. My esteem got stronger. So my energetic field got stronger and my capacity to hold the responsibility of a six-figure year entered my field because it's all about power. I had this really profound experience in a breathwork session where when I got into that altered space of where the subconscious meets the divine, I went in and I asked about money. And I was feeling for the energetic thread of money when I was in this space. Like I was feeling for the tethers of money and in this heightened transpersonal space through breath work. And I couldn't feel anything. Like I couldn't feel money at all. And when I asked God, I opened up and I asked God and Sophia, right? Like these two divine, highest divine principles. I'm like, I'm afraid to trust the lightness that's here. I'm afraid that if I let go of focusing on building wealth, that the wealth isn't going to build, but I can't feel money in this space. And the response to this was really profound. Money is a made up thing. Money is not spiritual, though of course we can infuse spiritual things into money, into anything that's material, but money itself is man-made. It's a construct. So when we're going to these higher spiritual places, it's not the money that we're touching. It's the frequencies of abundance and prosperity and wealth, because money doesn't exist on these higher planes. So this is something to really think about when we're commanding our word, because we can use our word in really superficial ways, or we can get to the root. We can get to the edge of creation. And when we start to speak from that point of the edge of creation, the potency, the power, and the precision that pierces the veil all the way through is going to have a lot more momentum, a lot more inertia behind it. So these are things to really contemplate when we're in the field, because the point is self-actualization. We're getting closer and closer to who we are at a divine level, not to neglect the practical, but to infuse the practical, to infuse the matter from this space. So let's get super practical. Before we go into this, one of my mentors shared this years ago, and it really shifted my perception about contracts, specifically prenups. So I want to start with this and then get into the whole point of contracts and agreements, because yes, they're things that we're doing on a physical level. We're practically taking pen to paper or fingers to keys and signing things. But ultimately, contracts and agreements, if we're coming nose to nose with the point of creation, it's so much bigger than pen to paper. It's literally our word as law. We're literally signing and committing to what it is that we're creating. This is like the meat and potatoes of this whole body of work. This is what we've been building up to understand the power of contracts. So one thing to keep in mind, the contracts and agreements are here to protect both client and practitioner, client and facilitator, both. when I heard my mentor speak about prenups in this way that I had never actually thought of before, it opened my mind to a lot. So essentially, she's made tons of money in her business, and her partner supports her business. She's made $100 million in her business, to be clear. And her fiance have been together for 12 years, and they were supposed to get married in 2020, but the world shut down, obviously. And since then, I don't know what's happening, but they're going to get married in their own time, of course. So she talked about prenups one day, and it got brought up. Someone asked her, and her response was, of course, I would have a prenup, not because I'm afraid of what he would take from me, but I don't know what I would give to him if the emotions were high. So if we have a prenup in place, the intention of a prenup or a contract or an agreement is that they're made from an emotionally sound place. When you're in love with someone, when you're marrying someone, and you put a prenup in place, it not only protects you from your resources, but it makes sure that the person in your life is getting what is fair to them as well, or flip it around, right? Because divorce or breakups typically happen because of high emotions. And when our emotional state gets high, we don't think the same way that we would think when we're in love. So if we've given 10 years of our life, I even think of my ex and his ex, they were together 15 years and they never got married. So there was no prenup, but she devoted herself to him for 15 years. She lived in the state that he wanted to live in, like everything. She built her life, her commitments around him, which is its own thing. So by the time they broke up, she felt like she was owed a settlement. So these things that we put in place, we start to look at the contracts, we look at agreements, we create these things from an emotionally sound place. So as practitioners, our work is to make sure that we have solid contracts, we have solid agreements in place that we've created from an emotionally sound place. And when people choose to come into our field, maybe they are in an emotional place, but we know the integrity of our work and we know the integrity of the contract. And it's our work, our responsibility to uphold our side of the agreement. I actually have a massive program coming out called Integris about high value service. That's going to be mind blowing. That's happening in May, that we're really going to get into the grit of all of this. Like, what does it mean to be a high value practitioner offering high value service? How do we get into that zone? Really get into the grit of it. But what we're doing here is because there are people that sell on an emotional high. Let me see if I have that on the next slide. No, it's in a couple slides. There are people that know sales manipulation tactics. And even though we're women doing business in this new way and attraction-based marketing, there's still old kind of bro marketing, bro salesy, manipulative salesy tactics that people put into the field. So we want to be in integrity with the people that come in. We don't want to be emotionally manipulating people to sign contracts. And we can't be responsible to be mitigating people's emotional choices either, right? Like that's too much. That's too much. We're responsible for making sure that we are not emotionally manipulating people to come into our spaces. But if someone makes a decision based on emotion, and emotion is energy in motion, we have to trust the power that fueled that emotion. Because what will happen is if someone makes an emotional decision, if they're in their power, they will rise to the excitement in which they signed the contract. But if they're coming to you because they're trying to stabilize that power of excitement, that's their intention. That's part of the work, is to level up the stabilization in their field. Then they will most likely have a dip and regret the emotional choice. And regret is being fixated and leaking energy into the past, right? So when we're in regret, we're in the past. We're not in our power. And again, we're going to get so much deeper into all of this. But when we look at this, when we're looking at our responsibility, if somebody chooses to work with us and sign with us, and they choose on an emotional high, to know that that emotional dip is part of the process. But our work to be a voice to our mission is to hold to the standard and hold to the integrity, to see the person in their power all the way through. It does not do service to someone to see them weaker than their emotions. Because just because a decision is made through emotions, it's the soul that moves the emotions. As long as we are not provoking or invoking or catalyzing, manipulating energetically an emotional response to get people to buy something, then we are in right relationship. We are clear to be in service. We're holding that animus to support the feminine energy that's coming towards us. I'm very much the masculine in the structures of the containers that I hold. That's my role. Who I am on this call is not who I am when I'm not on a call. Let's be clear. It's different. So when we sign contracts, there's the responsibility that we have to understand that these contracts are here to exalt us in our power. And by having that container, the contract is the container. It's actually pretty mind-blowing what can happen when we allow ourselves to surrender into the container. Because especially in this type of work that we're doing here, the point is to have an ego death. The point is to have an identity shift. But to have an ego death into an identity shift is not a seamless process. It gets fucking messy. It gets really messy. And the ego wants to grip onto control and to go back to what it knows. So the ego is going to want to break contract. The ego is going to want to say, I'm out. This isn't what I signed up for, because the ego didn't sign up for this. The soul did. The soul did. I want to emphasize this is a high level conversation we're having here. Okay. Like this is not ordinary. This is not ordinary. But I'll tell you this, men don't need to have these conversations because men don't alchemize through emotions the way women do. Men sign contracts, have honor with their word, and they stick it through all the way through. But our work in transformation and empowerment as women is developing the emotional intelligence to have high waves and low waves of emotions and be aware. Are we judging? Are we projecting? What are we putting into the field? And be responsible with that. So when we can surrender into the contract and agreement, and of course have trust in your practitioner, and your practitioner, your mentor, myself included, is fucking human, like really fucking human. So to not have these unrealistic standards of who is holding us, but instead understand the surrender and being in service to the mission and service to the intention, because ultimately this contract you're signing is not with another person, it's with God. Okay? Like this is most important. When you make a decision to sign a contract, it's because something in you is desiring a transformation. And your desire for transformation led you into this space. Now, whether or not that space looks like what you thought it would look like, that's the ego. Your soul led you there. And everything in the moment is always perfect unless we're hooked in the past or anxious about the future. When we are present, we're in the perfect moment. That's where our power is. So these contracts, these agreements allow us to surrender into full presence, allow us to be held. And we have to have trust that even in moments, if there's moments that our practitioner, that our mentor can't hold us, God is holding us and the container. It's part of the greater journey. But I wasn't in alignment when I signed the contract. Okay, like we're going to hear this a lot, right? Like that's a thing. Oh, I made this out of fight or flight. Like all of these things. This is a sneaky form of feminine, energetic, and emotional manipulation that will, in fact, dilute the power of your word. Okay, like that's what it is. When we start to go into the emotions as excuses for why we can no longer do a thing, we have diluted the power of our word. That is out of balance feminine energy. So in that moment, you have a choice. Like if you really feel this way, you have a choice. And this is the choice that I witnessed over the past 5 years make or break someone's success. In other people, in myself, with my mentors, this is the choice. In that choice, or in that moment when things get hard, in that moment that you want to step out, in that moment when you have all of the logical, rational, reasonable reasons to think that your mentor is out of integrity or this program wasn't worth the money or all of these things that we do from a logical place, in that moment that our ego is freaking out that this is not worth my money, we have a choice to collapse in our power, to move from regret and try to control the situation, try to get our money back, try to take back our word, or come into our power, realize our soul did create this exact experience, rise, exalt in the power, and find the value that you signed up for, whether or not you were conscious of the journey ahead. This is a big conversation. This is not ordinary standards that ordinary people will hold themselves to. I want to be clear. These are extraordinary standards. And if you're coming into my container, if you're onboarding with me now, and that's how you're hearing this, you came here because you want extraordinary results. So it's our responsibility to hold extraordinary standards for each other, for each other. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to relationships and all of this, right, it's our commitment. So here's a really, so like I gave the example, I did 365 days of Facebook Lives in 2023, and that completely exalted my esteem, my relationship with my word, all of these things. So this year coming into 2026, I had just moved through a breakup and my energy, the relationship wasn't aligned. So when I snapped into alignment, things started really taking off. So I decided to use the new year as a time and place, a marker to step up my game, to step up my animus, to step up my commitments. And I put a lot of things in place. And I wouldn't necessarily advise putting a lot of things in place when you're building your relationship with your animus, when you're building your relationship with your word. Start with one thing because you want it to be something that esteem is built and fortified through time. Find the one edgy thing and commit to it. So one of the things on my many things that I'm tracking right now is doing cardio twice a week. I hate cardio. Actually, I don't even hate it anymore. I can't even say that anymore. So we are now at the end of February of 2026. And I have, in January, my commitment was 1 time a week. And in February, I made it 2 times a week. So last week was a week that was deeply preparing for the Rose Dieta. I had to go inward and do some inner temple setting in myself. So it was a very feminine week. So cardio and feminine are like, they don't seem like they go hand in hand, but when you understand that the structure, that the intensity, the pressure of that, when we're in intense exercising routines, we soften more deeply on the feminine when we're outside
This is cool.
of the routines. So Sunday night, it was Sunday. My tracking goes Monday to Sunday. And it was Sunday night and I still hadn't done cardio. And I was like, motherfucker, I have one more cardio session to do. What am I going to do here? And 7:30 at night, I kind of half-assed it, but not really. I did 100 jumping jacks to get my heart rate up, to just do the cardio. The energy wasn't like really there. Like I was really softening. We're going through a whole process of stripping out vices. And there's a real unveiling, stripping process that comes with the dieta. So getting on my mat at like 7:30 at night, doing these 100 jumping jacks and checking that cardio off my list at the very end of the week, what that did to my esteem. But here's the part of this. So yes, like that nailed in and sunk in my esteem. But here's the difference. This desire, this desire to do cardio came from a soul desire of my identity shifting, a soul desire into the next level of my becoming. It did not come from ego. It did not come from vanity. It did not come from a should. It came from a soul direction. So because it came from a soul direction, there is a soul pull that pulls me into the action. I'm not pushing to do a task because the push, if I pushed myself to do cardio, I would have been burnt out. It would have been miserable. But when I could find that soul desire that inspired me to go into the activity, when I let go, because the ego is in the mind, it has the fear, it wants to control. When I let go of my mind that was resisting all of the things, and instead the aligned action, just do 100 jumping jacks, do 100 jumping jacks, 100% all in, go 100% all in on 100 jumping jacks. That is absolutely your cardio. Check that off. That was the soul pull. Soul pull. Me playing ukulele last night at midnight so I could check it off and waking up feeling so alive because I followed that pull. Yes. So when there's things with our word that we've committed to, we want to follow the pull. We don't want to push ourselves into doing the things. We want to go so deep internally, turn inward so much, go so deep you flip inside out to find that current and pull, so that when you're checking that box or you're following through with your commitment, it's coming from alignment, not force. And this restabilizes our relationship with the masculine because we see the masculine as actually benevolent and in service. But it's how we relate. We choose how we relate it, because I could have done those jumping jacks punishing myself I could have been in pure punishment, hating my life while I did it, but I chose to be in joy. There's a difference. And it's not always, maybe joy is an overstatement. No, I'd say I'd say I did choose it in joy. There are things right now. There's another thing that I'm doing that's very intimate that I don't really want to share on here. But I'm developing a skill set that it's not to do with business, it's a personal skill that it's not like I don't have this skill set. And the brutality of this practice, I'm practicing this thing 3 days a week. The shame that comes up, the insecurity, the unworthiness, the brutality, like I'm processing so much old trauma and programming in my field because I'm confronting a part of me that hasn't been developed that I want to develop, deeply want to develop. This actually makes me think, here's an example. In 2019, I went to this dance training and I thought the dance was going to be feminine, sensual, intuitive flow, but it was actually sensual choreography. It was like drill, drill, drill. Everyone that was in the class was like a trained dancer. And I got kicked out of my ballet class when I was 3 years old. Okay. Like I was banned from the class. I have trauma around dance classes. So I get to this training, and every day I would go in there and I would be shaking because I'm not really an insecure person, but I would be shaking with nervousness. And as I'd walk back, it was in Manhattan. When I walked back to my Airbnb, I would be breaking down, sobbing, crying, releasing panic and terror from my body. So I would go in there every day confronting the gnarliest parts of my insecurities, my childhood trauma, without, like, I was just so in the zone. I just wanted to finish the goddamn training. And every night I would be shaking this trauma out of my body. And completing that certification was the most intense. What is the word I want to say for this? Absolutely intense, not gratifying. Like it is the biggest accomplishment of my adult life because of how fucking challenging it was for me to go in and face myself in the darkest parts of myself. I did not leave the best dancer in that space whatsoever, but I definitely, absolutely 100% left the proudest to get certified by the end of that weekend. So this is what we're looking at. We're not doing what makes us comfortable. It's actually the exact opposite in many cases. We're looking at what serves our soul's evolution and finding the pull. My ego did not want to go to those classes. My ego could not have beat me to go to those classes. There's no way, but my soul knew to show up and surrender, show up and surrender, show up and surrender. So, like I've been saying, ultimately, all our contracts are made between us and God. And when we break our word, or when we're trying to emotionally manipulate our way out of a situation or a contract or a task, whatever it is, an action, when we're trying to manipulate and justify and give all these energetic and emotional reasons or embodied reasons to not do it, the only person we are shortchanging is ourselves. Like that's it. Like that's it. It just comes down to us and God. And even if it is another person and there's a contract there, it's like, and we have to remember this as practitioners, if somebody breaks contract with us, I personally am not going to take someone to court. Like I'm not going to sue them. If someone doesn't want to be in the space and they're not going to honor their word to this place of manipulating outside of a contract, there's just the knowing that like it's them and themselves. It's them and their relationship with themselves. It's them and their relationship with their word. Like we're not in control of other people's actions and decisions. But again, with the theme of this Integris program, especially, our work as high level, high value practitioners is to keep the standard high and see people in their power, see people breaking through, because the ego is going to fight, 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 fight. So if we can witness the ego fighting in another without judging the person, but holding space for their soul's power to come in and align, we're going to act differently. We're going to show up differently. We're going to respond differently. From the very beginning of my business, before I called it a business, I understood that the people coming into my field were signing up for the mystery school of life. I would always say this. I'm setting an intentional container. I very intentionally, as guided by the divine, my higher self, God, Sophia, am given, my passion, my heart is in the embodiment of this work. And I'm given the logos to create and sculpt these containers for people to have incredible transformations in. And the biggest reason that there's so much efficacy, effect, effect The reason that my clients have such a potent experience and transformation is because it's not me, right? Like I understand I am a steward for the energy of the containers that people are coming into. And I also understand that I'm responsible for keeping the energy of the container clean, clear, and at a specific frequency. I hold the container. But life is the mystery school initiator. So when we sign up to work with a mentor, when we sign up for a program that's for our soul, for our personal development, we have to understand that our commitment to these containers, our word, leads us to the actual quest. Because the quest is not found in another human. Like, that's not how this works. The quest is the mystery school of life, giving us the exact experiences to fortify us in our power and in our becoming. And it can't be predictable. It can't be, or else it doesn't work. We can't predict what the journey has for us. If it's predictable, it's within our control. We're not actually going to break into the next level. We have to allow life to fuck us open into bliss, into euphoria, into orgasmic states of becoming. We have to be fucked open by God and the mystery school of life in order to become the next version of ourselves. It's not a comfortable journey. So our word leads us to the quest, but how we navigate when we're on the hero's journey has more to do with our feminine embodiment and energetics than anything else. So when things get hard in a container, do we demonize the holder, right? Do we rip them off a pedestal? This is a whole other thing. And we're going to talk about this a little bit. But when we pedestal someone, and we do it, we all do it. We do it subconsciously. We do it on some level. They're representing some kind of archetype, some kind of figure. And then all of a sudden we see they're human. Do we rip them off the pedestal? And do we shame them and punish them in order to bring ourselves back into our power? Because this is the dynamic too. When we pedestal someone, we're putting ourselves beneath someone. So when that flips and all of a sudden we exalt in our power and we see that our mentor, guide, facilitator, practitioner is not above us at all, they're actually equal to us, equal power. But now our crown is free. We're not sourcing our crown towards another person. Do we make the person wrong because we pedestaled them, right? Or do we take that really wonky recalibration period, because it gets wonky. I know this on all sides with my mentor and clients I've mentored, to come into a new relationship. Because when we're in the underworld, right? So we talk about this journey, the hero's journey, the feminine descent. The underworld is when we're in the realms of the subconscious, and what is around us is not exactly as it appears. What we see is our subconscious projections, but it feels so fucking real. Like we really think it's real. We really, 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 really think it's real. That's the whole thing. But anything that's not held on the frequency of empowerment and love is not real. It's not true. So when we go into these underworld journeys, just like me in the dance class having panic attacks, I have a video from that time that's like nightmarish. We're meant to confront these shadows. We'll see them. We'll see the broken mirrors every single place we look. We'll see the masks on people. We'll see the projections. We'll see the field. But it's not about what's happening outside of us. It's about our relationship with what's happening internally. So do we have the power to, even if we have a judgment or even if we have a projection, to observe it without acting? Can we hold and develop our emotional intelligence? Can we command our energetic mastery? Because I'll tell you, as we go deeper and deeper and deeper into this work, the tests become greater and greater and greater and greater. They're not instantly solved. There's no instant resolution. It's actually a longer time for the resolution because your capacity to hold pressure is elongated. And there will be periods when you're out of sync with your practitioner and your mentor. Like that will happen because we're not meant to stay in sync all the time. But who are you when you're out of sync? And who we are when we're out of sync with our mentor, when we start to operate at a higher standard, a higher calibration, then we start to expect that the people in our field are not only capable, but will do that same thing. Because if I subconsciously dropped out of the field with my mentor, but I'm staying committed, I'm staying open and curious what's here, I don't understand, then I know that I can hold myself in loyalty to the person I'm committed to while knowing I'm navigating the wildest field of projections and judgments right now, because this is part of the journey, because I'm going deeper. These things exist within me. Of course, they have to confront in order to be released. It's not about her, but damn, she could be the catalyst. Damn, she's the trigger. So how I conduct myself in that relationship sets the bar and the standard of how people will conduct in my field, because if I can do it, they can do it. And if I believe that subconsciously, then the part of them that is seeking light and truth will find that. Always. They will find that. The soul will find that. The ego will fight it, but the soul will find it. And our work is to not be coddling people's egos or feeding people's egos or validating people's egos. That's not high value, high service. Our work is to focus on the power and divinity and exaltation of the soul, no matter what we're doing in our partnership, with our children, with our parents, all relationships. The highest form of relating is to see the soul beyond the ego and hold to the standard, not like you should know better, but I see you and we got this. We're moving through this. Okay.
Nikki, can you say that statement one more time? The highest form of relating is through the soul, not the ego. Is that correct?
It's by focusing on the power of the soul, not the vices of the ego, right? So we're talking about this with the Rose Dieta, the difference between virtue and vice. So we want to be, especially when we're doing this work in feminine embodiment, feminine energetics, and getting our animus in alignment, our work is to focus on developing virtue, being more virtuous. Honor is a virtue, right? So when we start to focus on the virtues within people, the strengths within people, those are cultivated at a soul level. If we're playing with the ego, we're playing to make people more comfortable, but that's not in the highest alignment of truth and love. But if we're wobbly in our own relationship of, am I worthy of love? Am I worthy of truth? Where am I in love? Where am I in truth? We can't hold that for another person. So we have to be able to do this for ourselves, to be that portal, to be that calibration beacon for people to meet us in. So when we're locked into our soul, when we're locked into Sophia, the wisdom, and we're in right relationship with our logos, our word, we are fucking here. We are power. We're in our power, right? Sensual embodied presence. We're in our ability to respond. We're in our capacity to hold pressure. We're in our soul's self-actualization process. Even if it's uncomfortable, we know the assignment. So from that place, we can see soul to soul with another person. Now, the magic happens, especially in relationships, when you both have a vow to see the best in each other, when you both take a vow to find the soul light within each other when things are hard, when you can lock that in and that commitment with your word is fucking made. If you make that commitment with your word, when your word is fucking solid, the magic that can happen in a relationship, when one person remembers in the heat of an argument that I'm operating from ego, it's time to drop into the soul. Soul doesn't care about being right. The soul has no attachment to good, bad, right, or wrong. The soul observes what is and wants to drop deeper into harmony, resonance, love, and truth. So when you sync up to that, there's so much space for humans to be humans while setting the law of assumption that the person is going to come into their soul power. The person is going to remember their self-actualization process, that point. So we do this in all ways, whether it's romantic relationships, but also with our clients or with our mentors. We trust in the process of the homecoming, of the soul coming. If we're on this path, if you're in this room, if you're listening to me speak, there's no doubt that you're not doing this work on a soul level. Like, that's why we're here. So our work is to release the vices of the ego again and again and again, because the ego can't be in right relationship with the word. It's the soul that's in relationship with the word. So the more that we have conviction and clarity around our word, the more we're coming back into a soul power. Something just came in that, hold on, let me wait a second. There was an example and it like came in and came out. I think what's really important to remember is like our personality is worn on a very superficial level, right? Like our personality is sculpted by our environment, by our habits, by our vices, by our virtues, but personality is not soul. And when we're doing this work, we're coming into a greater self-actualization, soul realization. So the identity will die a million times over on the path of self-actualization, and the ego, the identity, the personality. So when we're hooked on somebody's personality and we're not giving them space to grow into a new identity, especially, again, high value, high level practitioners, right? Like we have to be able to see that the people in our field are going to go through massive identity shifts. They're not, if we are doing our work, depends on what your work is. If I am doing my work properly, you will not leave the same person that you came into my containers as. It's not possible. Your ego and identity will die maybe many times over. So if I'm fixated on holding you to a personality standard, not the actual virtues of honor, love, truth, it's not, the attachment to the personality is going to create a contraction. And we'll talk about this thoroughly in Integris, because this Integris programmed for practitioners to develop their skill set and being practitioners. Like it's really, my heart's having an orgasm thinking about it. Like I feel like I was born to create this in so many ways, so many ways. But it's really understanding, you know, especially when we go through ego deaths. So I've gone through many ego deaths with my practitioners holding space for me. And the ego wants to rebel. The ego wants to make someone wrong. So I want to give this example too. So I wanted to get out of a program that I signed up for back in 2021. And I got into this woman's container. I bought from a place of urgency, scarcity. It was not from an aligned place that I bought. But even though I didn't show up to the container, and I told this woman it was a whole journey, I exited the container, but I paid for it completely. I continued to make payments. Let me be clear. I made 4 months of payments, thousands of dollars into this container that I did not participate in. The lesson I got out of this was what it feels like to make a decision out of urgency and scarcity and what it cost. So I was not entitled. I was not a brat. I did not try to get my money back from this person. And I also did not slander her publicly. I did not make her name tainted because I didn't align with what she was doing. I've said very clearly I did not align with this woman and her methodology or her modality, but I never gave her name. People always ask, like, who was this? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, not doing that. Now, what's really powerful about this is though I broke contract in the sense that I did not show up to these sessions, which in hindsight, I may have done differently, knowing now what I know now. I might have shown up with more curiosity to these sessions. But at the time, I was really more sitting on my time as my most valuable resource, and being immersed in this energy is taking energy from me. I wasn't as much in my creative power, though, I'll say that. But I navigated that situation with respect, with poise, and complete like fulfillment of my end of the contract, which was to pay this woman. Now, what ended up happening this fall is this woman was actually in a class with my mentor. She actually was in a container as a peer of mine. And it was this really profound moment where I checked myself being in proximity with her, because I knew my emotional experience of the journey. And I had to check, like, am I good here? And when I scanned my field, I was like, I never used my word to slander this woman once. I never used my word to commit like a curse around her field. I never talked bad about her. I always spoke about this. I used my word to speak about the learning experience from an empowered place. And even though my energy was still bitter around her, because I never spoke her name, it was my stuff. It was my subconscious. She was never named. So I was able to have this emotional experience towards this person that I never named, and still it be squeaky clean because her name was never slandered. Do you see this? Like there's an energy to this, because it's not about us having this perfect experience of knowing like, oh, I'm just in my wound. Like we're going to get triggered as fuck. But when we're triggered, how do we react? How do we respond? Because one of the biggest ways when we feel that when we feel that our power is being taken us, or we feel like we're not in our power, one of the best ways to take power over someone is to slander their name. That's one of the best ways to take our power back, is to destroy their name. So we see this, people do this, women do this. So this is one of the ways, using our word. Are we using our word in a way that is honorable, respectful, and in a way that if we changed our mind about the situation, do we still feel good about it? So I often say I'll change, like this is what I'm saying today, but I'll probably change my mind later about it, right? Like, so there I'm not silencing myself, but I'm speaking the truth. This is how I feel about the situation today. I'll probably change my mind. My work is always gonna evolve. There's that. So there's a conviction in my word that even though I'm speaking with conviction, part of the conviction is I am open to my ideas developing. I am opening to my ideas evolving through time. So that's a big important piece. Okay. This is a long session, but this is so important. Thank you guys for being here. All right, out of balance masculine is going to hustle, right? So we don't need hustle to have success. We don't need to hustle, but we need grit. What is grit? Let me check my notes too. Oh my gosh, we're so much further ahead. Okay. What is grit? In the chat. So we need grit when we're navigating tension and we want to break contract on either side, right? So grit is going to be this thing. Grit is like super healthy masculine energy. All right. We're brainstorming. Are we thinking? Resilience, dedication, tenacity. Stick to itiveness. Okay. So grit is like empowerment through commitment. Yeah. So grit has everything to do with our character. Sandpaper to shine a rock to a crystal. I love this. Okay. Grit is the sandpaper to shine a rock to a crystal. Yes. So grit is like actually our character, right? Like it's part of our character. It's part of courage. It's making bold moves. It's getting uncomfortable. Like it's the sandpaper, right? Like grit is the thing that sculpts us into being our shiniest, most vibrant self. It is not hustle. Grit is an internal work where hustle is an external work, right? So grit, we're working on our character. We're working on our personal development, where the hustle is more about the internal aspects of self. Okay. Oh, this is good. All right. So before we go deeper into this, somebody asked, this is such a great response. This was my response. So there's a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and this woman came in and she was talking about how she signed up for, she had a year-long contract in this mastermind. It was tens of thousands of dollars, and she regretted it almost immediately. She felt like it was disempowering her. She made the decision based on emotions, and she was trying to overcome shame. That was the big theme. She was like, I can't get over the shame that I have about this. So this was my response to her, and I think this is really potent. Do I want to read this? Yeah, I'm just going to read it gracefully. So take this in. So this is my response, and I said, like, my personal response. This is how I've navigated similar things, and this will be helpful. Maybe this will be helpful for you. Even if we feel like we've made a mistake, God doesn't make mistakes. We are always exactly where we're meant to be in this moment. We can be humbled by expectations not being met, but it is fully in our power to extract value from every situation we are in, every room we are in, and every experience we are having. There is unlimited caps to the value that we can extract, but first we have to be in a creative mindset. The creative mindset cannot be active when there is shame in the field. So to dislodge the shame is to remember your power, but to remember your power is to not be a victim of manipulation. I understand that some people really do know how to sell on emotions, but that doesn't make them wrong or bad. They are just practicing something that really goes against our ethics and morals. And now we have a real deep embodied experience of why we don't align with this way of selling. And now there's a great opportunity to expand awareness when this is somebody's method without judging them, but next time not buying into it. When you raise yourself into your power, to your creativity, to be able to hold the frequency where you can perceive value in places you did not expect, your perception of value makes you a match for more value. This is so important because when we're talking about law of attraction, which again, like people talk about but don't actually understand it, if we're resonating at a place where we're going to see the value in all things, then we are going to be a match for more value. So this is actually the work. So just like going into the money as a human construct, but our work is to connect to the frequencies of wealth, abundance, and prosperity, and the money has to show up around it. It's the same thing with value. So if we're in a container and we're deciding to see that it has no value, it's not serving us, then we are not a match for value. This is how responsible we have to be with the inner game. This is our work. It's not our practitioner, facilitators, mentors' job to show us how to find the value. It is our personal responsibility to extract the value to anything that we've committed to. Always our responsibility. Being a match for value can translate to being a match for money. So this is why some people take huge financial leaps as a way to catalyze their financial growth. They know they will rise in their power to meet the magnetism and efforts required to call in more money. If you choose to see this as a game to rise to your power, God, the universe will meet and celebrate you. This is also really interesting. There are people that literally will, like, they want an increase in their income. So what they will do is they'll say buy a second property or a third property or a fourth property because they know that their word says, I'm going to pay my mortgage. And if their word says, I'm going to pay my mortgage, and that's my energetic baseline, then if they raise their expenses, they're going to raise their income because their word is set that solid. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where when we start to be in so much integrity with our word, we can start to bend time. We can start to really sculpt and create. So when your word says, I always pay my bills, my rent is always on time, my mortgage has never been late, like that kind of energy starts to command the universe to meet around it. But when we feel wonky with our word, when we don't understand the inner landscape of what's happening, then our potency to create is it's not as sharp. Okay. The other thing about value that I want to put into perspective too is we leak our power when we're putting money on the pedestal and we don't understand that our greatest resource is actually time. Where money doesn't exist in this higher plane, we can't touch money in a higher plane. Time is the thing we reside in which the higher plane and the material meet, right? So to understand that time is actually our most valuable resource to create with, it's time and who we are being and how we are showing up to time, that is our most valuable resource. It's not money. But when we give our power away to money, we're not going to show up actually in alignment with abundance, prosperity, wealth, and value because we're not aligned with our values. We're not actually aligned on a soul level of values. We're stuck in the ego construct. And I want to emphasize this too, because so much of this work is about coming out of like nervous system trauma and the fight, flight, or freeze response we have around money. And this is what creates that buyer's remorse. Oh my God, I spent this money. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Like that's that energy, especially making big investments. But our work is to actually hold the power of what that energy current was and putting that out and raising ourselves up that what we put out comes back. Of course, there's an ROI. There can't not be an ROI unless I'm just leaking things out left and right. But even that's a choice. When we're here in the present moment, we have the choice that we're either leaking money or we're not. But if we're stuck in the past and trying to figure out what we've done wrong, we're not in our power. We're not in the present moment. If we're trying to control and command the future, we're not in our power. We're not in the present moment. So there's an art to this. Our energetic alignment can only happen here in the present moment, not by fixing things that we are perceiving as broken before. It's only by coming into full presence, full power here that things start to move. We only create when we're present. We only consciously create with pure conviction, with our word when we're present. And our present or our power, I'm sorry, when we're in our power, it's defined by our sensual embodied presence in the moment, our ability to respond in the moment, not from a trigger or a trauma, and not from anxiously controlling the future, but from this present moment, and our capacity to hold pressure. This is what it takes to create. Now add the masculine word to that, and you're golden. You're golden. But we're so collectively working through so much trauma and dissociation that we have to continue to settle back into the body, settle back into the nervous system, remind ourselves that it's safe to be in this present moment. I have all the power I need to create from right here now. But we forget this, and we've also been programmed to forget this. Okay. Developing integrity, building power behind your word. All right, so this piece here, we've talked about this thoroughly, but give yourself into the time that it takes. Allow this to be a journey. It's not about having it perfected. Like, okay, I'm committed to my word and that's it. Take esteemable actions. Create things, create challenges that you will fulfill. I will fulfill. I will fulfill. Develop that relationship with your word. Build the power behind your word, and it's going to take time. That year of doing 365 days of Facebook Lives, 2023, I am just now getting tremendous amounts of fruits from this, like extraordinary amounts, because I knew, or I know now, that if I could do that, I can do anything I put my mind behind. If I'm putting my mind behind something my soul chose, and my soul and all of our souls is going to bring us to the edge of our growth, the edge of expansion. So it's going to be uncomfortable. That's the point, but not so far that we're like grandiose in what we're going to accomplish, and then we can't accomplish the thing. There's a sweet spot, and that sweet spot takes a level of aliveness and presence to actually meet. Grandiosity is dissociative, and playing small is desensitizing, it's numbing. So the sweet spot, that edge of aliveness, that's where creation happens. Where am I stretched to my edge and pulled by my soul into greater greatness and greater greatness and greater greatness? Okay. Yeah. And we've reiterated this a bunch too. So time is our most valuable resource, not money. How we show up in time matters most. Again, like it's our embodiment. And this is why we focus on feminine embodiment, feminine energetics, energetics led, like who we are being, how we are saturating this moment is what's sculpting our reality. It's what's creating our active perception. But then bringing that word in to command and shape, that's the sculpting. That's the sculpting of the reality. But if we're not aware of who we're being and how we're residing in space, and this is why I emphasize the importance of the pleasure practice. So again, or not again, for the first time on this call, when we go into the pleasure practice, it's not about feeling orgasmic and great or even anything at all. It's about taking the time to see what is between me and my pleasure, what is between me and my peace, what is between me and my orgasmic states, what is between me and my satisfaction. And it's a full journey of de-armoring and unveiling so we can get to our soul's truth. That is the point of this work. That is the point of sacred sexuality, is to come to a soul recognition. So when we can show up and give ourselves into these practices, there's no minute, no moment that is wasted. Even if we're not having this euphoric or transpersonal or transcendental experience, like that's not the point. The point is that we showed up. We showed up to the practice. It's hitting the mat with a beginner's mind every time. Every day is going to look different. But do we show up with an expectation and then we get disappointed? Do we show up half in and then it's diluted? Or are we all in, curious, beginner's mind to what is here for me now? 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 Extracting value. And the more value we extract, the more value that we're just naturally pulled to give back. And that's the circuitry. Okay. Just going to skim my notes because there's so much here. I have a lot of examples of nuances of like working in close proximity with mentorship, but this is what I want to say about my specific body of work. The point of my work is to support women in coming into their power and into their embodiment and into self-actualization and sovereignty. And nobody needs me or my containers to do this work, but people choose to work with me and my containers to do this work. There's going to be moments where we work with people or we choose people because this person is acting like a prism, right? So the light comes through the person, the light of truth, the light of God, the light of love comes through our chosen mentor or practitioner. And they're acting as the medium to fracture and break the light into rays that the eyes can actually see. So I have language and I have methods and I have ways that I have experienced truth and God and universal law and feminine embodiment that I've developed a methodology around it. But that methodology doesn't take away from the methodology that you're here to develop. It only fuels that. EroSophia is a temple to support you in developing your temple, your mission, and your methodology. So the way that God, Sophia, speaks to me creates all of these colors, all of these languages that is easier to digest than getting it straight from source. Otherwise, you would be getting it straight from source. But there comes a time when your oracular gift is going to skyrocket, right? And the need to have a specific prism that has been serving you is not going to be there anymore. And the assignment shifts. And the assignment is no longer, I'm looking towards you for a support or an answer, but instead I'm choosing to walk next to you. And that, again, is a high level shift of, can we walk next to someone, owning our power without diminishing our power, without diminishing someone else's power? Can we choose to be in conversations that make us a greater person for the sake of choice, not for the sake of need? And that's what's at the bottom of high level, high value service. It's never that our mentor knows more than us. It's that they've mastered an art and you enjoy the art while you create your own art. So there are so many seasons that really test us. And the closest proximity we have with the people that we're working with, the more heat we get. And when we remember what we're actually doing here, that it's not about validation and it's not about ego and it's not about people pleasing. And again, integrous, like, we're going to comb through this on a practitioner level, like what we need to get out of the way so we can operate at a high level and high standard and really show up for the people that are coming into our spaces. But when we remember that this journey, this ultimate journey, like, we are all children of God and we are choosing to walk next to each other, and no one is less and no one is more because of it. But there are moments that we are so fucking grateful to have certain levels of support, because when we go in that underworld and when we feel lost and when we can't touch our compass, it's really, really a privilege to have someone with a torch walking forward. But when we regain our power and regain our torch, are we able to walk side by side with the person we're walking with? Or do we need to diminish them because we put ourselves behind for a period of time? So these are the dynamics we really have to look at, because our evolution is born through our realization, through the mother wound, the sister wound, the witch wound, the father wound. All of these archetypal wounds are going to show up along the way because it's how we relate to life. So when we see our responsibility as holders and practitioners is to hold our clients while they journey through deep egoic processes and emotional perceptions, how do we show up? How do we respond? And how we show up as clients sets the template and expectation for how our clients show up to us. Okay. I feel emotional. All right. Thank you all so much. This conversation is like way more powerful, way more important than can be humanly comprehended in this moment. Like, this is going to saturate, this is going to soak in, this is going to resonate, this is going to change things. So what I want you to be mindful for in going forward, when you're looking at your word, start to pay attention. Just start with observation. Just start observing. How do I speak to myself? How do I speak to life? How do I speak to my clients? What's my inner dialogue about my clients, about my mentors, my relationships, my partner, my kids, my parents? When I look in the mirror, what is my word? What is my word saying? And start to play around with, is this ego or is this soul? And start to release the egoic need to fucking talk. Let the ego shut the fuck up. There's a mantra in our EroSophia world. It's called the shut the fuck up woman. It's for another time. We'll get deeper into it sometime. But the power in really not needing to speak and listen. So listen to what your ego's saying first, and then start to consciously choose your word and pay attention and put weight behind it. You get to allow your word to have weight that will sculpt like clay the world you want to create in. But it's really like the rewards we have when we start playing with this. I mean, journaling about wanting these clothes, and then my neighbor sending me, a backlog of 4 months of payment for an internet bill. It's like, it's just wild. It's just wild. Like, we really get to have fun with this, and it really has to come from that place of desire. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Beautiful humans. I don't know how this happened. Okay. Thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I will see you in Temple of EroSophia.